Welcome to Workplace Straight Talk with Gloria Carter-Hicks, the president and CEO of Hicks Carter-Hicks, and your host. Because some things need to be said about the workplace, Gloria will be saying them right here at Workplace Straight Talk. Look for new episodes on the fourth Monday of the month. Thank you for tuning in.
Welcome to Workplace Straight Talk. I am your host, Gloria Carter-Hicks, and this is episode number 3 of our series, Deception, Disruption, and Direction in the Workplace. I hope you listened to and watched episode number 1, The Upside Down World of DEI, and episode number 2, Civility and Respect, Reboot in the Workplace. Episode number 3 is when politics and work collide, and that's what I am here to talk about today. And you are probably wondering, why am I talking about this? Isn't this topic taboo? Isn't this something that should not be spoken about in the workplace? Well, guess what? You cannot ban these conversations. They are happening, and the political climate in which we are existing and living right now, they are probably happening more than ever. And we are not asking people to change what they believe in. We're not asking them to change their political views in the workplace. We just want to have civil, respectful, and professional conversations when that topic comes up about politics. Now, if you're trying to convince, convert, or coerce people into believing that your politics, what you believe in, is best, then that's a problem. But if you are sharing information about who you are, if you're educating people about your beliefs and values, and you're being your authentic self and doing it in a civil and respectful way, well, that's okay. We're not asking people to change who they are, but there are boundaries and borders around how you do that. But we're not banning or recommending, I'm not recommending that you ban these conversations, because you can't. The Society for Human Resource Management, also known as SHRM, did some research in 2024, and it says that 71% of U.S. employees have engaged in political conversations with their team members. So these conversations are happening outside of work, spilling into work. They're going to happen. So let's talk about how to do that in a way that is effective, in a way that is not disrespectful. So that's why we're talking about this topic. And guess what? The stakes are higher right now, because we are living in a politically divisive environment and world as we speak right now. And so these things impact culture, impact business, the customers, and employees. And when the stakes are that high, it can cost your business dollars, hard and soft dollars. It can cause people to disengage, to quietly quit, or to physically just quit and leave your organization. It can cause you to lose talent and for people to shut down. So the stakes are higher right now, and that's a reason for the conversation. Now, also, let's talk about, why are we discussing this? Opinions travel faster now because of social media. And guess what? That energy from social media, what people are reading and talking about, texting about, whatever, is going to infiltrate work. That energy comes to work because people are not doing what? They are not checking their values and beliefs around politics at the door when they come into work. So we as employers and leaders need to be ready in terms of how to set boundaries, not bans, around how to have these conversations so that people can do them in a safe environment. Politics impacts employees. There are guidelines, there are employment regulations. Lawmakers have made policies around pay, benefits, pensions, all of those things. So if we don't think politics affects us personally, think again. Outside of work, inside of work. There are rules and regulations and guidelines and politics that dictate what we can and cannot do in work, outside of work. And guess what? The lines are even more blurred right now as it relates to hybrid work. Now, what am I talking about there? Well, guess what? You're working at home, and that is your workplace. Hybrid work. If you're at home working, You might be listening to the TV, it might be coming up in your news feed online, it might be what you see on internet that, politics happens to be something that's infiltrating your home, which is now your workplace. And so guess what? Those lines are blurred between my professional and personal life at home. And why else would we be talking about this? Well, businesses seek regulatory freedom. What does that mean? Businesses do not want excessive government interference in their business. I am a business. My company, Hicks Carter Hicks, is a business. I think the same way. But there are rules and regulations that we must follow as a business. But guess what? Why do businesses hire lobbyists? They hire lobbyists on their behalf to advocate for them with policymakers so that policies that are made, laws that are enacted, do not hurt the business. Now, there are politics that help the business. There are politics that hurt the business. There are politics that help employees and hurt employees. And I'm talking about laws and regulations. There are some things that businesses don't want to do that we must do. And so we're all in this together. We all have skin in the game as it relates to politics colliding or working with the workplace. Now, there's risk and realities here, and I want to talk about them as it relates to politics in the workplace. Team division. If people are bringing in their political views and values into the team discussions, it can cause dissension. It can cause an erosion of collaboration. And so teams, I talked about this in episode number 2, teams can set guidelines and, charters and ground rules and norms, team norms on how they want to operate to be respectful. Because if we spend all of our time in conflict over politics, productivity is going to fall. People will become disengaged. Morale will be lowered. And so that hurts the business, that hurts employees, that hurts customers. And so team division is a risk and a reality as it relates to people having all of these political discussions. But we know they're going to have them. Psychological safety could be at risk. Well, just what does that mean? That means that I'm not comfortable being my authentic self. I'm not comfortable sharing who I am, what I believe in, my political views and values, because I think I'm going to be judged or shut down, ridiculed. And so, no matter how professionally and civilly I try to present that, if I am judged, then I'm probably just not going to say anything because I don't trust the environment in which I am working and how it might impact my work or how it might impact my career. So I don't have psychological safety to be who I really am. Mission drift. Let's talk about that as a risk and a reality. If we're spending all of our time having conversations about these divisive issues, these controversial issues, are we focusing on the mission or our personal agenda? Are we having win-lose conversations where really the company is not winning, employees are not winning, and neither are our customers? And so, mission drift, we're not focused on the strategy of the business. How about business, brand, and reputation? I'm sure you probably know people or have heard of people or read about it, heard about it, people who have lost their jobs because they have said something related to politics or political figures. So that can be risky in terms of what you might say, how it impacts your career, how it impacts your image and brand. And guess what? Businesses have to think about their image and brand also, and who's representing them. I talked about that in podcast number 2, Civility and Respect Reboot in the Workplace. That's why businesses have code of conduct guidelines. The legislative realities are businesses have to fall in line with regulations. Businesses have to pay attention to politics. As a business, our organization has to know what's going on politically and how it might impact us and how we might need to respond. That is just the reality of the real work world. It impacts people. It impacts the culture in which people work. It impacts customers. It impacts the business. And it can have hard and soft dollar implications. So, what direction should businesses take to make sure that we can be civil, respectful, and professional? There are some things that we need to do as leaders. There's things that we need to do as employees, and we're all employees. But I'm going to speak to leaders right now. Some of the things that are necessary: set boundaries, not bans. And you've got boundaries that are set. We talked about what the corporate values are in the last episode of Civility and Respect. There are values in terms of how you want people to treat one another in the workplace. Some of those things might be around dignity, respect, and inclusion. Those are important values that businesses have and how you treat people. Other things, you have a code of conduct. But I got to be honest with you, nobody is thinking about the code of conduct or what is written in a handbook when they become deeply engaged in these emotional, controversial topics around politics. But we've got to make choices in terms of how we have these conversations. And that goes for managers as well. And so we need to equip managers with how to lead inclusively, because inclusion includes understanding and respecting people who have different political views and values than you might have. And so those things are important. And with civility and respect training, which I talked about in episode number 2, that's a way to begin to set the standards and to help employees and their team understand how to have these conversations professionally. The other part of that is communicate legislative changes clearly. You have to help people understand why the business may be following the guidelines and the laws that are mandated, that are expected, and give them a reason and rationale why, the business case and what's important. People may not agree, but be transparent. Businesses must follow laws. That's important. And also for leaders, not only being transparent, but also managing your emotions, not trying to impose your viewpoints, your political views on your coworkers, on your direct reports, your peers, not pushing your agenda. Your role isn't to pick sides. Your role is to uphold respect and protect dignity. And in order to do that, you have to keep the team focused on mission and focus on the core values of the organization. Let's talk about employees. What's all employees' roles? Well, own your own emotions. Now, I do not want to discount or diminish how important feelings and emotions are as it relates to politics. It's an emotional topic. It's a sensitive topic. And guess what? You own it. It's okay. What's important is you've got choices to make about how you respond when these conversations are had. Are you uncivil? Are you respectful? Are you professional? You have a choice to make. Behavior is a choice. Respect boundaries. If people tell you they don't want to talk about certain things around politics, then respect that. I have a friend who told me at work, she said, at her job, she just tells people, I don't have these conversations around politics. It's too volatile, it's too emotional, and we have different points of view. We need to agree to disagree, and I would prefer not to have these conversations around politics. She set some boundaries. That's what you got to do. Set boundaries and respect boundaries. The other part of that, I talked about listening with empathy with the respect framework. And I will show that again. I won't go through all the details, but here it is for you to see. The respect framework, one of the pieces there was empathy. Empathy means that I'm putting myself in your shoes. I'm trying to understand what it's like to have your perspective on politics. I may not agree. I may not change my mindset, but I will listen and I will try to learn before I try to rebut what you are saying. And so listen with empathy. The other part of that is focus on the mission. If we're focusing on our personal agendas and trying to work in an environment where we're winning and others are losing, we are not aligned with the mission. And mission alignment is important, and living the values of the organization, what they say is important in terms of how people go about their job, their expectations that are necessary to be met as a business. And how you do that to meet the mission, achieve the vision, and execute on the strategy is important. Now, I'm going to be honest with you also. There are some people that don't believe in the company's mission, vision, or values, or how they operate philosophically. And so, if that's the case, then you've got to make a choice if that's the company for you to work at. And that can be a tough decision to make because it has financial implications if you don't have other jobs. But if you stay and philosophically you don't agree, then probably you're going to become disengaged. But it's a decision that people have to make. At the end of the day, we have to work together. That is what's really important. We have skin in the game together because, politics affects us outside of work, inside of work. Businesses have rules and guidelines and regulations that they have to follow as an organization, and there are laws and principles that have to be followed. Now, I always say in these episodes, I am not a lawyer. And so talk to your company's employment attorney, talk to your company's HR people. But this is just something that we know right now is a very important topic. It is highly emotional and it is quite controversial, but these discussions are being had. And so, what are some takeaways here? A couple of things I want to talk about. Politics shows up through people and policy. That's just life. That's the way it is. And civility is everyone's job. Being respectful is everyone's responsibility. And it's an expectation that businesses have. And if you're trying to convince, convert, or coerce people into believing what you believe around politics, that is not going to be a positive conversation. And it is probably going to be very disruptive to the workplace and to the workers that are involved. Clear communication and shared accountability is important around politics. Businesses need to explain why they're doing what they do. They don't have to, but it is helpful when you do if you want people to understand. They may not agree, but at least they know the why. And then don't forget about the respect framework that we talked about in episode number 2. So in closing, I would just like to say this. Thank you for listening to the 3 episodes or to some of the episodes. If you didn't get a chance to listen to all 3, I hope that you will. Episode number 1, The Upside Down World of DEI. Episode number 2, Civility and Respect Reboot in the Workplace. And thank you if you're listening today to When Politics and Work Collide. You can listen to and watch Workplace Straight Talk on our YouTube channel, Workplace Straight Talk, Apple Podcasts, and also Spotify. So I hope you will subscribe and listen to us regularly. Our next series, which will launch on the 4th Monday of the month, that's when we publish our episodes, the 4th Monday of the month. The next series is called It's All About You, the Employee. And there's 3 episodes to this series. Number 1, would you hire yourself? Number 2, why did you get fired figuratively or literally? And number 3, how do you create your value proposition for your company? How do you create your personal value proposition and your brand? That's number 3. So I always say in these podcasts, if you want to send me some comments, some thoughts, or you want me to explore a topic, feel free to send me an email. Here's the email address. And again, don't forget to subscribe to Workplace Straight Talks podcast. Thank you so much. Have a great day. It was a pleasure talking with you.